Hello everyone, and welcome back to DMG. Recently on the channel, I covered this XPS M1710 gaming laptop from 2006 that was an absolute beast. However, from the beginning, I was having issues with the GPU, and unfortunately, right after I wrapped up filming, it finally gave out. However though, I was able to get enough footage to finish the video before it unfortunately left this world forever. Now, I really liked this laptop, and of course there's no integrated graphics, so I was left with a useless laptop at this point. So I thought, let me check eBay and see what a replacement would cost. Now, the GPU was very nice, a GeForce Go 7850 GTX, which was a very high-end card at the time, and the laptop with this configuration would have been several $1,000s. And these GPUs, the 7850 Go GTX, are still ludicrously expensive on eBay. They'll run you up well over $100, sometimes into the $200 range. And frankly, I am not willing to pay that much for one graphics card. And unfortunately, these don't use MXM. Because of the notebook's form factor, it has to be mounted above the PCB of the laptop, so it slides into, or not slides into, but sockets onto a connector on the motherboard. And GPUs with this connector are really hard to find because they only made them for Dell notebooks and with the Quadro FX and GeForce 7000 series chips. So I can't just like buy a GTX 980M or something and slap it in here. But point in case, I could either buy a ludicrously expensive exact replacement or settle for a little less performance for quite literally a tenth of the price, and that's what I did. Instead of buying another, name's too long, instead of buying another one of these, or even a GeForce 7900, which still would have been about $60, I settled for a Quadro FX 1500M, which was $21. I wanted to get this laptop working again, but I already have other laptops from this era that are more powerful than this, so I didn't see the point in spending a lot of money to upgrade it to max spec. I rather just wanted to restore it and have it working again. That's what's more important to me. So, with that in mind, I bought the cheapest GPU that would fit in this laptop, but it would still perform quite well. The Quadro FX 1500M was actually not made for the XPS M1710 at all. In fact, it was made for the Precision M90, a laptop which shares the exact same motherboard and chassis, and there we go. And because it shares the same motherboard and chassis, it fits just fine into the XPS M1710. But now I'm going to give my opinions on why you probably shouldn't buy a Quadro FX 1500M. As you can see, the laptop boots up absolutely fine. So it's not an issue with the laptop posting. The GPU clearly works. But getting software support for this card is so finicky, and I'm going to be talking about that right now. So, first of all, you can tell I'm running XP, and I originally had this running Windows 7 in my video. In between, in about 3 weeks, I was troubleshooting this stupid card. I actually ran Windows Vista for a while as well, and that's because NVIDIA doesn't offer any driver support for this GPU. They support the Quadro FX 1400M and the 1600M, but what's in the middle? The 1500M. And guess what NVIDIA doesn't offer any driver downloads for? The 1500M. The reason I'm running Windows XP, therefore, is because there is one driver on the whole internet that works for this card. and it only works on Windows XP 32-bit. I tried about 7 patched drivers on both Windows 7 and Windows Vista, 32 and 64-bit, Home, Ultimate, Pro, all the different versions, and none of them were stable. Windows Vista out of the box had a driver that let me use the card, but it didn't do 3D acceleration properly. And you can see here in this Unreal Tournament footage that the gameplay would periodically speed up and slow down. And I have no clue why. I've never seen that on any graphics card before. So finally, I decided to go to the one driver that Dell offered for this card. The one driver, by the way, that worked. But unfortunately, another thing I really loved about this laptop was the subwoofer. And for whatever stupid reason, the subwoofer only works with certain versions of the audio driver. It's not hooked up to the audio output, rather it has to be separately controlled by the sound driver, which is really dumb. No wonder the company that designed the audio setup in this laptop and made the sound card, Sigmatel, went out of business just a few years after this whole debacle. But so basically now I don't have a subwoofer because the driver doesn't support the speaker. So what I'm really considering doing is just opening the laptop again and just wiring the subwoofer to the left channel speaker. And it won't quite emulate the sound of the original subwoofer setup, but at least I'll have it because these front speakers are really tinny. They don't get across any bass whatsoever because of course it's intended to be used in conjunction with the subwoofer, which only provides low frequencies. But it's really not the end of the world. The rest of the notebook works fine on XP, except for the Wi-Fi. For some reason I can't connect to it. But that's an issue with XP, not with the laptop itself. But anyway, new GPU means we have to try some games. So let us do exactly that. There we go. Now, I am testing it plugged in, do note, because although the GPU is still usable on battery, it's clocked down by 150 megahertz from its normal speed of 350. So it's a little bit slower. In comparison to the original GPU in this laptop, it has a few fewer shaders, and this is back when pixel and vertex shaders were separate in the 7000 generation. So it is a little bit less powerful, and especially when you're driving a huge display like 1920 by 1200, the difference is noticeable. However, that doesn't mean it's a bad GPU, and it still does offer some fun, but no worth in me talking about it unless I demonstrate. As we can see, it's running very well. Quake 3 Arena was already quite old when this laptop came out, so if it didn't run Quake 3 Arena well, I would be a little disappointed. Oh my god. I'm sorry, I am sorry. I'm having to look around the camera. I promise I'm not just bad at the game. Ah! Oh shit! Oh fuck! It actually scared me. I hear him. Ah! There you are. So clearly it runs quite well, and the laptop is better at running the game than I am at playing it, as I like to say. But let's just check GPU Z here. So here's our FX1500M with 20 pixel and 7 vertex shaders, DirectX 9.0C support. And yeah, so this one has 256 megabytes of GDDR3 running at a speed of 507 megahertz. And GPU clock is 375 megahertz typically. It just doesn't have like any other sensors. You get your clock, your memory clock, and that's it. There we go, now you should be able to see it a bit better. Sorry, it's hard to film these glossy screens. But let's try some Unreal Tournament 2004. Of course, stepping it up a good deal. Still a game that's about 2 years younger than this laptop. It released in the GeForce 6000 generation, but it's still quite difficult to run with the 7000 cards at such a high screen resolution. And of course, we will go straight to torturing this laptop with the most demanding map that is known for just melting GPUs. Now, Ice Tomb is such a demanding map because it's all made of ice, and all of the ice has dynamic reflection and lighting effects. So that really takes a toll on the GPU. I'm playing, of course, at max settings, and, you know, it's by no means unplayable. But it is noticeably worse than we saw on the 7950 GTX Go. Okay, yeah, big lag spike there, and I don't even know how I just died. Now, there's actually more input lag, which is really interesting. It's less of like FPS lag, and more I'm pressing buttons and then it happens on the screen with a noticeable delay. And that's more disorienting than FPS lag, in my opinion. I'm actually so good. I am just the best at this game. Oh, that was a good 360 no-scope with the gun that doesn't have a scope, but shut up. Just die. Oh my god, just die! There we go. Okay, so clearly the GPU performs well enough, but let's just go ahead and unplug the laptop. Which, by the way, I did replace the battery. Oh no, the input lag is even worse now. For some reason the screen got brighter, and you might be able to see that our FPS is a little bit lower because our GPU clock just dropped to, I think, 215 megahertz or so. Or maybe it's just all the way down to 200, I forget, it drops pretty low. We might as well check GPU-Z for this. So on battery, yes, the GPU drops its clock down to 200 megahertz and memory down to 300. So that's actually even more of a handicap than I originally said, my bad. But yeah, it almost halves its GPU clock. So you're definitely gonna wanna use this plugged in. That out of the way, I'm gonna go ahead and plug it back in for this test, just so you can see what kind of like your normal gameplay would be like on a less demanding map with it plugged in. And also, I replaced the SSD I had in here, a nice Samsung SSD with a WD black hard drive, because for Windows XP, it really doesn't make a significant difference, and I'd rather have the SSD for a machine that I like actually want to take out of the room, because no offense to this laptop, but this is not practical to do anything with. Like Windows XP is a little too... Well, you just had to interrupt me. Windows XP is a little too old to like use. There's a little bit of work that you'll have to put in, and knowing that it's lacking in software support from the creators of the card, NVIDIA, before you buy it is a very good thing to know. I went into it blindly, and then once I got the card, I checked the driver page on NVIDIA's website and realized there wasn't a driver page on NVIDIA's website. So don't be like me, do your research before buying any old graphics card. But I hope this video in particular was helpful to the 3 other people who still own an XPS M1710. And if you're still watching and you're not one of those 3, thank you so much for sticking with the channel. So thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in a future video.